Software ate hardware just like we're seeing AI eat software. I don't need a CTO.
And it's like a word salad. I'm gnawing through it. I can't get past the croutons.
Is no different than the storage wars. Is no different than the .com wars.
Hello and welcome to another Get the Money, a conversation between founders, entrepreneurs, and the like. In this call, we discuss the state of SaaS and how speed is now the difference between scaling and stalling. From bloated org charts to no CTO startups, we break down how AI is changing not just what we build, but how we go to market. What if the best go-to-market strategy is no longer a full team, but a single engineer? How do you pitch in a world where everyone claims to be AI powered? And are you building product or are you just building bloat? So whether you're watching the whole video or listening to it on your morning commute, I hope you find something insightful.
Like serious. Look, Benioff posted for the first time in his career this year. These executives are concerned. The world has changed.
They were caught flat-footed.
Very.
Yeah. I mean,
it stuck up on them, and they didn't realize how fast it was going to start to take off.
We're seeing it right now. The billions spent to create these models within 6 months is seen in open source. What's the value in spending the money? Now, we're beginning to see that, Keith. How do I know that? Because OpenAI is spending their money not on things, but on people. This reminds me of my Salesforce days.
Hire this week.
Mark stocked his bench with people he knew he could deploy. He took a page out of Larry's book. OpenAI is taking a page out of that book. Pack the people in when you can.
Sam Altman bought the A-team, huh? That's what they're saying.
Yeah, he's buying the A-team. Instacart, a woman that joined him. Now he's got Jony Ive. Do you know who Jony Ive is, Paul?
He's a legend, and Apple failed to keep him there. Right?
He just got bought. Did you see that yesterday? He just got bought for his unknown hardware product yet to be shipped for $6 billion.
Wish I had some
crazy
unbought technology that could be bought for $6 billion.
I told Keith that last night. I'm not going to let this moment pass us by. We're seeing too many things happen for what we do well. We're going to start maybe even scoping out our own product, or we're going to take other people's products and white label them and put together a solution.
It's a super app. You don't have to be the builder. You just have to be the brand that brings it to market. Bobby and I lived through examples of companies called Packard Bell and Creative Labs.
Okay.
I mean,
Packard Bell is the one. We had tech at Creative. We didn't package other people's stuff. We bundled. Now this is where you get into bundling, which is who's taking a page out of bundling today? The streamers. The streamers. We all were tethered to this thing called the cable box. So much that this company Cisco ponied up $6 billion. That must be the magic number years ago for Scientific Atlantic, which owned the set-top box market. And in that, really, really quickly, about a year later, something shipped called smart TVs that made it irrelevant. And then again, go back to that. Jony Ive, there's only one company that tried to create a hardware device to compete. That's that Apple box, that Apple TV. But everyone else put it software enabled. Software ate the world. Software ate hardware, just like we're seeing AI eat software right now in front of us.
And that's sort of the topic that we were going to cover today is the state of SaaS, because just like I would say famous, but I don't know how many people have seen these lovely talks of yours where you go from black and white TV to Technicolor to this to that, which now we're like in this, like you're just covering streaming. What is that for SaaS right now? And what's the main difference or even crossover from what .com was before to now what's happening to SaaS?
Wow, that's a really great question. There's a lot of substance and meat to unpack there. I'll first start by saying it's the change that stays the same. And I say this regularly because we're seeing it repeat itself. This AI war, it is a war, is no different than the storage wars, is no different than the .com wars. It's the magnitude and the pervasiveness. And Aaron said it best probably, and I was bummed I didn't think, Aaron from Box, I didn't think about this. The reason that it's happening at the pace in which it is, because we're all enabled. We all got smartphones, 6.5 billion. Like it wasn't like that. And Keith, it made me reflect back. How long did it take, John, you asked a great question. How long did it take to get a desktop PC on every company in America?
A while.
Less than 3 years.
Oh, well, I mean, still less than 3 years compared to today. Getting something in someone's hands is less than a year or even that, a couple months.
About the magnitude of putting a device that no one had ever seen for applications that didn't exist to pony up the money to put it on your desk for the hope that it would automate things one day.
Mm-hmm.
And we only did that because we had this stuff called VARs, And these value-added resellers were the channel that came and educated the people and actually did the work for them. And this is what's absentee today. And I forwarded something to Keith this morning that woke me up. And it was Meta going after the SMB, and they're out hiring over 100 people. And why is that? Because they got WhatsApp. They've got Facebook. They've got the properties that SMB needs to succeed, and they're the ones that could actually deliver these AI solutions. Claire and I work together at Salesforce, which is why this is important to your point. The consumer people are going after the business people because the intersection of technology is gone. Like CRM is now customer relationship magic. You don't need to manage them anymore. Like, this is all changing. And someone said it best. Is Sergey going to the office 70 hours a week because he doesn't want to be the next IBM? And Google could be the next IBM, around forever, irrelevant to where we are today.
Right. I guess let's draw a parallel as best we can to before, like what was before SaaS? Was it just software where you bought a disk, you put it in your computer and it worked, and then the next time you got an update, it was a new disk and you put it in and it worked?
It could have been a Gold Master and it shipped on the Packard Bell that you bought and it was already preloaded and you turned it on and it worked. So, I mean, we could go there. So, no, software was truly complex. We talked about landing that desktop. People then made applications. Eventually, those applications had to speak to one another so that you could exchange. Here's my customer. How do I invoice? What do I bill? And that's became the integration layers. Then became middleware, tying the top to the bottom because you have it. And we see this now, the bottom. I love the bottom. Hardware. Layer 1 is sexy again. Infra AI may take all the money because guess what? It costs money. Software will not cost money moving forward.
Yeah.
Open source, the machine's writing code, the no need for a CTO. You probably may have seen the sign on. Did anyone see the NASDAQ sign? It was from Lovable, and it was, I don't need a CTO. And look what I'm building.
You mean the big headline they have on Broadway? On
Broadway.
Yeah.
I don't need a CTO. How many listeners would love to say that because they got an idea and can't find a CTO?
And they're doing some good consumer branding, aren't they?
I thought a lot about how they're throwing the kitchen sink at it based on the article we read this morning. And it's really rather interesting. How many channels are there?
Yeah.
And you guys hear me talk about the world and ubiquity, and this is why the Gary V comment on time.
Yeah. Well, so the pray and spray model is still there, right? It's still a way for startups to see what works. It's just like testing your product. If you don't send it out to as many different channels as possible to have it run, you're not going to know what to fix and what people want. Same thing for social media, same thing for content. If you're not putting it in as many channels as possible, one of the quotes in there was something like not mastering one single thing and more so just trying it all. I've always been an advocate of picking one, but I've also been an advocate on the side of just make sure you're touching the others though.
I think that's an interesting discussion probably for another day if we're going down a certain track, but I feel like there's a balance you have to strike because you can take out the shotgun and just blast, but on a limited budget with organic being your tip of the spear, you're going to have limited ability to really reach and engage. I think today it's so important, and we believe in it. I know all feverishly the importance of storytelling, knowing your ICP, coming up with great messaging, and then pointing that at that ICP and leveraging the proper tools and channels to make sure it gets engagement. Engagement is the key word here. I think that gets overlooked a little bit because I want to be on YouTube and I want to be on TikTok and I want to be on Instagram, but what I really want is I want to build my funnel.
Yeah. And I guess that leads me to the question, because where I was going with all that was, what is the biggest shift in how SaaS companies are positioning themselves today as compared to 5 years ago? Because there is a huge shift, right? We just said it. If you're keenly focused on one channel, and if that channel is old, right? If you're only doing blog posts, or you're only doing, even just posting on LinkedIn right now is kind of an old state way to do it. What's the big shift that's actually working that you're seeing?
Funny. I think we felt for a while that we could message our way to success with a good product. And now I think it's flipped. Now I think you need to have a great product and good messaging. Obviously, the better the messaging and storytelling, right? But I think you need to really have that solid product that solves a real problem. And the bigger the problem, the better the opportunity, the bigger the market. But I'm not a product guy, but I know how to leverage the success of a product to make sure that you're telling a story that cuts through the noise in the marketplace. And I think today the combination of those two efforts are really critical.
Are you saying PLG could have never been more important than where we are today at this moment because of?
I think that's, and again, I'm not a product marketing person, but I give my lead to product. Like, give me something great. I cannot make, I can't turn lemon into lemonade. And I really want an Arnold Palmer. So I need the combination of great lemons with a nice mix and the iced tea to go along with it for the perfect blend. And that's what messaging and great product can do.
Here's where I'm going to say maybe you're the black and white TV person on this show then. The CEO I met with yesterday said everything against what you just said. I'd never hire a product marketer again. I'd never hire a product manager again. I just interviewed 250 of them totaled for both positions, and no one knows what they need to be doing. So I set up an LLM and I started training it on what we do and where we are and what we're doing, gave it some history lessons, and look at this work. I was blown away with what he shared with me. And I thought to myself, man, maybe the world has changed in the most significant way.
Maybe the titles have changed, but who's building the product?
The makeup of the team does not.
Yeah, who's owning, who's owning feature definition and prioritization, and who's building the product? I know there's a certain amount of that happens on a design and engineering and developer side, but who's, taking it out, just doing the research in the market on the customer and the behavior, the usage, and all that.
So John's right. So John, you asked the question, SaaS companies, usually it was a founder who was a mid-level director level at a company, saw a problem, left. No commercial experience, never sold a product, didn't interact with customers, saw a problem, tries to solve it, and then has to figure out how they marry and match that. I don't know that that's going to be here, Keith. I think the message of the product needs is coming from the product. So when I'm talking to the CEO, first thing he says is, everyone says, I need this integration. So you know what I go? Great. My LLM spins up within minutes an integration to an application I never saw before. Does the handshake, register itself, and starts doing information. We may not even need integration companies. Look, the big four, the SIs, this whole world is changing like no one knows. This was really what keeps me up at night. Like up for real.
Right. So I guess that kind of leads into what's the biggest mistake you see founders making right now when it comes to going to market, whether it is as a SaaS company or even as someone who understands that the market has shifted for SaaS and is in sort of the right direction. What is it that you see they're either getting wrong or the biggest question you heard at SaaStr? The question that hit you in the face the most, right?
And Robbie and I heard this recently meeting a CEO 2 or 3 weeks ago, and this was an experienced CEO. And I could pull my notes up. The first thing he says, selling is hard. A noisy world out there. We're like, that's why we have our customers talk. So what you're seeing are these CEOs are encountering for the first time things they had never experienced because it's such a noisy market right now that, to Keith's point, you can't even rise above the noise. You got to cut through the shit and really say, here's what we do now for you, or you're going to die.
Bobby, I was really surprised how few people really had a strong pitch, like a really strong story. When I come up to your booth at SaaStr, hey, what do you guys do? And it's like a word salad. I'm gnawing through it. I can't get past the croutons.
That's everywhere, though, every event. Look, you and I talked to that CMO of that company where we really liked the technology, stayed through the demo, and her pitch was shit.
Yeah.
Well, the other part of that is it kind of points to the fact that I think we can build products so quickly that we kind of quick step the process of really understanding the problem and the use cases, the user behavior, and really understanding the depth of the problem and how it's going to be used. So making sure that customers really spend the time interviewing John is, I think, something that a lot of founders, I talked to a few people and they validated this is a problem. Well, that's not really enough to go to build a company around. But you talk to 100 founders and they all want this product as soon as it's developed. That's a great signal.
Right. And maybe we're thinking in the fact that because things are moving so fast, things are changing so often, they feel like they have to either change or adjust the way they're speaking, but it could have been working. And there's a chance that the bloat is coming from, I can do all of these things. I should talk about all these things. But then when the chance comes, they're like, hey, pitch me. It's like, which one do I pitch? I haven't even asked you any. Find your focus, stay on track, and you're always going to be able to talk about what it is you're trying to get out into the world. Ravi, what about you? You got any stories from SaaStr?
Yeah, I think I think there's basically two camps of founders, right? I think there's the startup, like the Y Combinator, that group, that there's a lane. In fact, there's a separate section of founders where they're just starting companies last 12 months. They don't even know what AI native means. That's how they build the company. So they've sort of thought about it ground up. And I think the mindset there is quite different because they're like, okay, look, I'm going to do the sales. I'm going to get to the first million in ARR myself. Need salespeople till much later on. And I may not need capital to the way traditionally things were built. So they really thought about the whole process of building these companies and the go-to-market motion from the ground up without worrying about what happened over the last 30 years. And then that's very refreshing. And then everyone else, I think, in the main flow is, how traditional SaaS, I'm trying to now adapt to the new world, and how should I be thinking about that? So there's a lot of content and a lot of lessons to be learned. And Jason Lemkin said something very interesting, which is, the urgency with which that cohort of startups need to act is incredibly, you just need to have massive urgency because for various reasons, everything's moving quite fast. You have 1,000 competitors in any category. So anything you've thought of, anything you were doing, there's another 1,000 people who are already thinking and actively working on it in that other room. And they're moving very quickly. So, urgency was a big factor. That's what I heard a lot about.
The good news is, John, we had a heads up coming off of, the good, having our finger on the pulse. What are the needs? What are the things that we're seeing? So we chose a partner to take to SaaStr that I feel is more of a life raft, lifeboat, lifesaver for most of these companies that are struggling.
They're a bridge. They're also, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's a better way, is it's not just the lifesaver, but it's a bridge to bring you over. And a lot of these founders are caught in this quagmire. I got SaaS. My sales are stalling. I need to add AI capabilities. My feature requests are going. I can't hire. I got no money. By the way, if you're a seed or an A and you're not crushing it beyond belief, you're probably not going to make it through this gauntlet. And we're seeing that now. The acquisitions are hiring just repeatedly, or the closures of seed-funded companies. It's a sad time. But what we're seeing is with Launchpad and rekindling a relationship with Jason has allowed us to go out and maybe offer these founders, can we help you? Can we help cross this chasm? And that's really what we did at Salesforce, was all these client server apps that knew they would never be able to make it. And that's why I launched Force.com, the first low-code, no-code platform the world has seen.
Yeah. So wait, let's back it up then. On the Salesforce thing, what do you think was the secret sauce at Salesforce that propelled people forward? Like, what was it that it did that wasn't happening before that gave startups and founders a way forward?
All right, so now you're going to have to really back it up to my days at BA to realize what an IT backlog was, and IT debt and tech debt, things I had never heard of, never having worked in the enterprise.
So that existed before. That's not a new term.
It's been around forever. What we did at BA was we knew if we put in the common infrastructural platform, which let's just say it's 50% of the building blocks for you to get to where you need to go, that meant you were 50% there at half the time to get you there. And so we gave you all of these capabilities. You still had to do a lot of work. You had to hire SIs, customizations.
But you had out-of-the-box capabilities.
Yeah. And so with Force.com, we got to attack that backlog because there's never enough bodies, never enough things. And every company says, I need. Every department, I need. And so that allowed you to, we called it, bend the curve. And we really had a hockey stick in which we drove custom application development, which further infiltrated our platform deeply into these companies so that it could never be removed.
And again, out of the box features and capabilities that would help you move faster. So now what are we doing with the AI world?
Well, I was going to say, so with Force.com, I let you go, I don't even put the infrastructure. I'm just going to do clicks. What is the workflow? Now, it was a simple workflow application, which is why about half of them inside of companies. So it wasn't, the process was simple. We couldn't build complex Java applications and then fast forward to where you are with the cloud today, where you can, and that AI can actually build those for you, makes you at a competitive, super disadvantage being a SaaS-only company. You don't have the resources. You don't have the know-how. You don't have the knowledge. You don't got the money. You don't get the people. And so what Launchpad does is they took, and this was smart of them, we claimed we popped the top on CRM and gave you our platform. That's what I had to do to convince you that I could be conceived into the enterprise, because we had enterprise customers using the app, is that they took a 40-year-old company that's used in 80% of the Fortune 100. So that's like everyone we know that does business, from banks to telcos to like insurance companies who trust them for decades, which
Yep.
is hard to get money from those big companies. You're laughing. So what they did then was they took all that trust and they said, we see this whole group of people, small, medium businesses that want the enterprise capabilities. And so what they did was they stripped all of the complexities and they gave you this platform called Launchpad that is remarkable. I'm actually blown away. These vibe coding platforms are insane.
Yeah. I think the biggest takeaway here, and a good way to probably end this, is as a SaaS company today, or even a startup who is seeing success, you have revenue, you have customers, but you're seeing a wall, right? Take a page out of the book from the past and look for something that's going to help you automate or give you functionalities without bloating the team. In this case, we're talking about Launchpad, something that you don't need a CTO anymore. You just need an engineer that's really smart and can prompt away and get all the other stuff done. SSO, SOC 2 compliance. You got the foundational stuff that nobody wants to code in the first part of the company, and then have enterprise grade, ready to go software, and clean up so that you can focus on the thing that helps you go to market. I think one of the biggest things in the way of founders and startups right now to go to market is that they have to focus on all these other things. And that's always been true, is there's always these other things in the way. And that's why you have to hire the specialist. That's why you have to hire a bunch of teammates. Now you take the focus away from the grindy stuff and you can really, really, truly focus on what the customers want. That's it. Thanks for joining Get the Money today. If today's conversation sparked a new way of thinking about product speed or how you're scaling, don't keep it to yourself. Share the newsletter with a friend or colleague who's stuck in the weeds. Maybe they're hiring too fast, chasing too many features, or still trying to write the perfect pitch. This might be the nudge they need to reset and move smarter. And if you haven't already, sign up for the newsletter. We release a new Get the Money every other week. We also release these on most major platforms for podcasting, as well as YouTube. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.